Welcome back to Guff Stuff Weekly. This week we are talking about board games. No video games today, guys. Sorry. We're going to talk about a couple board games probably, but the first one we're going to start with is an entry-level board game that is near and dear to my heart because I've been playing it since I was a little kid. When it came out, I think probably in the early 80s. I'm not 100% sure. It's called Dungeon. It's originally developed, I think, by TSR back in the day.
Okay.
And it's a board game loosely based on Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes.
Loosely. And I mean loosely. But there's some very familiar aspects. And I like to, when someone's never played an RPG, I actually like to bring that game out and say, let's play this. This kind of gives you an idea of what you're initially getting into.
If the concept is cool.
Yeah. We'll go farther. Yeah, we'll go a little deeper. So
what is Dungeon?
Dungeon is a simple board game. Think of on the lines of Candyland, Snakes and Ladders. Sorry. Very, very simple rules. You have a hero. You go out and you go out, earn much gold, whatever the hero needs to earn for gold, and then race back to the start and see who wins.
Yep.
And depends on the level of hero, because there's 4 levels of hero.
What are the heroes?
The heroes are
Thief.
Right. That's not what they used to be called. So, okay, yes, I think Rogue.
I think it's Rogue, Fighter, Cleric,
and then Wizard.
Yeah.
Rogue, yeah. Back in the day, they called them. Let's see here. I think they literally called it a thief.
Okay.
And there was a hero, and then a superhero, and then a mage, I think is what they were called.
Okay.
They used the different terms. Yeah, the Rogue, but they each have their own little unique parts of the board game is split up into different colors too. And each hero has a certain group of levels that it should go to. The levels are from 1 to 6. I think Rogue is the lowest level.
Yep.
1 to 3. I think 3 being the hardest, that would be hard for a Rogue. 1 is fairly easy. 2 is challenging, but you make a little more money. And then same thing with like hero or fighter. No, cleric and then fighter. Yeah, sorry. So the cleric is like levels. I'm not 100% sure. I don't remember exactly the breakup. But you see how it goes. And wizard would be the last 4. It'd be 4 to 6.
Yeah.
Because they literally can just cast stuff into a room.
I think it goes 1 to 3, 2 to 4, 3 to 5, 4 to 6.
There you go.
Yeah. So to give you a little bit better, clearer picture of what we're talking about here, there's a rectangular board.
Right.
That you start in the center of.
Yep.
And that's like the quote unquote safe zone or the dungeon entrance.
Yep.
And all of the character pawns start there. And the objective of the game is, like Guff just said, there's different colored areas that have tougher to fight monsters, depending upon the higher number.
Yeah.
And so what you do is you walk down little hallways and you come up to rooms and you go through the door and you draw from a deck what you're fighting in that room.
Yeah, it's random too. You draw whatever it is, and that's what you're fighting. And the monster does have a stats. It has stats for fighting if you're a rogue.
Yep.
A fighter, a priest, or a wizard.
And certain characters fight certain things better.
Yep.
So like if it's an undead, the priest actually usually can roll better than
priest has a
lower threshold to beat than a fighter.
Yeah, if it's a dragon,
the fighter's going to be more likely to.
The wizard is the
wizard.
Chance,
yeah,
especially if he casts the spell to attack that.
Yeah.
So if it's a red dragon, you throw a lightning bolt at it.
Yeah. So and that's some like other mechanics.
But yeah.
As far as like mechanics for each character, the thief, rogue, can find secret doors easier.
Yep. Way easier. Yeah.
The cleric has the ability to fight undead better, I think.
Yeah.
Turn undead, I think, is what their special ability.
Well, I don't know if they have a special ability per se, but they definitely get when you flip up that monster card. Anything undead is usually easily defeated.
I thought each one had a special ability.
No, because the fighter doesn't either.
The fighter doesn't have a special ability. Right. They're just really good at fighting everything. Right. And then the wizard can cast spells.
Yeah.
So you can shoot a spell into a room before you walk into it.
Right.
If you want. And anyway, so what happens is like, say you're fighting a level 1 monster.
Mm-hmm.
If you kill it, you typically draw loot from the loot deck. You're looting the room.
Yeah.
And then it'll have a gold value assigned to it. It's usually less gold in the lower level rooms and then worth way more gold in the higher level rooms. So, as a result, the end game goal of the game is to acquire X amount of gold for your character and then come back to the center. Well, if you're a thief, you don't need to get nearly as much as the wizard.
Right, yeah, I think it's 10,000 for a thief and then
40,
50,000 for a wizard.
It's way more for a wizard. But the wizard can go right to levels 4 through 6 and start getting 2,000 to 5,000.
Yeah, it's not even some 10,000. There's a few 10,000s and they're 8,000.
And so it's a die 6 fight system.
Yep.
So you just roll 2 dice 6, and usually you got to beat like a 7, and then you kill the monster.
Right. Yeah. It's usually in the player's favor.
Yep. And then you can get wounded and like sent back
or killed.
there's a table that you have to roll.
Right.
And if you roll badly enough, you'll have to just grab a different character pawn and start over.
Yeah, and you leave all your loot there, and then some entrepreneurial little guy can run there and grab your stuff if you really want.
But as far as gameplay goes, like Guff said, it's fairly simple. But it also is like strategically kind of deep.
Yeah, you can definitely make it much more strategy. And when I play, it doesn't matter. I'll play whatever everybody else doesn't want to play. But I know that if I get a chance to play, I like playing either the fighter or the cleric. The rogue seems like the best choice because getting through secret doors is a nice thing. But I found that once you even hit level 2 and 3, the rogue struggles a little bit beating things.
And once you clear a room, you cannot clear it again.
Yeah, once it's gone, it's gone.
And there's only X amount of each one.
Yeah.
So
it's a limited number of fights they can do.
I guess some of the strategies I've always done is I play a kind of a bold strategy, and I tend to go I take a route through the mid level, the medium level, whatever
like
it is you're available to. So like if I'm a rogue, I'd start at level 2, and then I'd walk my way to level 3. And I try to gamble and get as much gold from the tough fights as quick as possible. And then if everything goes kaput and foobar, then I go back and kind of work through the 1 level rooms.
Yeah, I usually start with a higher level guy. I'll play if there's people playing the rogues, I'll even go up to fighter. I generally try to stay away from the wizard just because it's you gotta roll for spells, and I don't rely on my luck for rolling.
Yeah, the wizards really.
I always get the lowest number of spells possible. So if I have to roll a d6 and add it to a 6, which is how many spells you can get, I usually roll a 1. So
but honestly, like that can also determine too, like your route. So if you're a wizard and you roll badly on your spells, you should probably just stick to the level 4 rooms and walk back to the fountain, as it were, and get your spells back.
Yeah. It's an interesting board game. I think that it's easy to learn, and it's hard to master, but easy to learn.
Yeah, and I've played it with basically people who are as young as like 8, 9 years old.
Yeah, anybody can learn how to play it because they really just need to know numbers.
They beat me.
Yeah,
and I was trying to win.
Yeah, well, you just need to know numbers. You just need to know. You just need to know you got your 2 dice have to add up to more than what says on the card.
It's pretty straightforward, pretty simple, and you can get magic items and stuff too. Like it does a good job of like letting you. It's a good litmus test, if you will, for whether or not someone's gonna like D&D.
Right.
And it's only about a $20 investment.
Yeah, it's been around forever. Yep. So I mean, there's no R&D, there's no expansions.
Yep, it's
literally a $20 game that you can go out and have fun with any age. And so that's why I like it so much. Is like I can literally, if we're sitting in here and someone wants to play a board game, and it doesn't take long.
No, it's
thinking like a half hour, unless you really drag it out.
If you know what you're doing, it can be 15 minutes.
Oh, right. Yeah, you can play it pretty. Yeah, and so I've played it many times with many people in here. People that don't normally play board games. I had gamer Jesse in here with his wife one day. We played it just because they had a half hour to kill or an hour to kill, and
you're like, let's do it.
They're like, I want to play a board game. Okay, I think they thought we were gonna play like cards or cribbage or something. I just whipped out Dungeon and okay, this looks weird. And then they both had fun.
Yeah, it's a fun time.
Like it's just a fun, easy game.
I guess that's it for Dungeon, huh?
Yeah, there's not much to it. It's a pretty simple game. You have your treasure, you have your monsters.
Let's look at another game up on the shelf I want to talk about. Let's talk about Hero Realms.
Yep. That's
kind of a deck builder.
A deck builder game, yep.
Yeah, so Hero Realms is made by the same people that made Star Realms.
Yep.
And it's a deck builder game. So the idea is you have a starter deck, and in Hero Realms, it's based around what hero you're playing. There's like a ranger, a
Yep,
rogue, a fighter,
cleric,
kind
yeah.
of D&D style. Star Realms has a little bit different one.
Yeah, they're more spacey.
I don't think I've actually played Star Realms,
Yeah, they're
but
more spacey factions.
if you've ever played any deck builders like Ascension or Dominion, it's basically that mixed with magic because you can attack your opponent and whittle down their life.
Yep.
And if their life reaches 0, they're dead.
Right.
But it's this game of managing economy versus military power, basically.
Yeah.
That's how I've always looked at it.
Yeah, you do have a shared pool that you're working off of, trying to claim the cards in the middle
Yeah,
of the table for yourself.
there's a central deck that's kind of splayed out, and all the players playing have access to buy from the pool. And there might be a card that you really want in the pool, but if it's not your turn and someone else buys it, then you're SOL and you're moving on to looking at what comes next.
That's probably the most competitive aspect of the deck building game.
Yeah,
and that one in particular.
Yeah, it's a cheap game.
Yeah, no, it's
like $20 for the base set.
It might even be cheap. It might even be $14.99 for the. I don't remember though.
Yeah, and most L.G.S's local game stores will carry a copy of it.
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever been in a game store that didn't have a copy of it.
It's because everybody can play it. It's one of those simple games to learn again, and there's not tons of expansions. There's one thing I do like about it over some of the other deck builders I played, is you can buy expansions that make it is competitive or cooperative. Where you and your buddy are trying to fight the board.
Yeah, so basically, I just picked one up last night, actually.
Oh, did you? Okay.
One of the expansions.
Yep.
And what it does is it turns a player versus player game,
yep.
Which is a $15 game for 2 decks, basically.
Right.
The base game. Well, you can pay $15 more, and then all of a sudden you have a board game that everybody can play, and it's still cheaper than a lot of.
Yeah, no, it is. It's super. Well, it's small. You throw it in your backpack.
Yeah, you can keep it in your backpack.
You don't need your pickup.
And it's
all in your game.
It's short.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of accessories for it, like play mats and all sorts of different things that you can do with it. I've had a lot of fun playing it. I've done it where like my buddy's like, oh well, let's kill 30 minutes. Oh, let's play some Hero Realms,
Yeah, it's
and
easy.
I pull it out of my backpack and we play it.
Yeah, because it doesn't take no space at all.
No. That's something I carried with me for a little while when I was traveling around, going to different towns and stuff. And then the nice thing too is the expansion like lets you play single player too.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of them that let you do that. There's the Dragon one and there's a Lich one, I think.
Yeah.
And I think you could play cooperative against the board or just by yourself.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too is some of the
campaign based.
That's the one I picked up, the campaign one. Yeah, but you can also buy like a dragon and a lich pack, and then you're just fighting one monster, but cooperatively, and that's really interesting. I haven't actually played those ones.
I think I own one or two of them. I don't remember exactly. Yeah. We might have played it. I know somebody in here's played it. I don't know who. Yeah, I don't know if it was me or not though.
Okay.
Played a lot of Hero Realms though.
Yeah.
We played that a lot for a while when we first got it. One of the guys bought it. And we started playing it, and all of a sudden everybody was like, hey, let's do this. It was like you said, it's an easy, really super simple, easy deck builder.
It's a good filler game.
Everybody can get into. And it's quick.
Yeah, honestly, it'd be something that, like, it reminds me a lot of, like, what Magic was initially intended to be. Of, like, you could bring it to, like, a con or something.
Right.
And then, like, in between whatever it is you're doing at the con, you could just sit down and play Hero Realms on a freaking coffee table.
Yeah.
Or a small little 2-man table.
Yeah, I know we played it when we played it, at least on a regular basis. It was literally waiting for something else to start.
Yeah.
I'll be here, say 6 o'clock. I want a game to start. We have a session starts at 5 or 6. Somebody shows up at 4 and says, "Well, let's play quick." Well, we know these games are quick and they end, and it doesn't so no big deal.
Yeah, and that kind of gets me like this is more of a meta thing here, but I feel like we need to start doing that again.
Just playing the smaller, quicker games.
Playing the smaller, quicker.
Yeah, games. The big games are good, but I think I've tried to, at least with my my group of people that we're working on developing the community with. I've tried to, at least with my daughter, she does a lot of my personal work on Discord.
Okay.
When I want something to change, I have you do a lot too, but she's the one that I try to have coordinating events.
Mm-hmm.
I try to tell her, hey, you know what? when we're doing Mech Warrior, you should always put Mech Warrior down, even if Mike doesn't schedule it, because we know on Sunday we're gonna probably play Mech Warrior.
Yeah.
You guys are gonna play Northgard that evening on Sunday evenings usually. At least that's what it used to be. So that should always be on the schedule. And then when we show up to play, kind of, and I'm just using this as video game reference. Obviously, it's the same thing in the store. But let's say you guys show up at 4:30, and say Jen's gonna come play, but he can't make it till 5:30. Oh, well,
now we have something to do.
Now we have a couple small games we can play until that happens.
Yep.
And so that's kind of why I like some of these small games. And I definitely agree. We should definitely. I know when we're gonna build our shelves, I know that was part of our thought process is have the big epic board games kind of at the bottom, but have all the smaller, easier ones that don't take all night to play, kind of up towards the top of the thing, the easier to grab ones.
Yep.
And I think we're gonna add some more. I think we have some Exploding Kittens, which is
I've never played that, but I've heard great.
We're gonna do
it, but I've never played.
Okay, well I think we have Zombie Kittens here, but I have the anniversary edition of Exploding Kittens, which is everything, all the expansions and everything, all in one shot. And it's an absolutely riot. It's super simple too. It's one of those super simple games that you basically it's kind of you played Uno.
Yeah.
Played Phase 10 and those kind of games.
Yep.
Where there's, turn around, go back, come back this way. It's kind of what Exploding Kittens is, except for with just funny words.
I have played Kittens in Blender.
Okay. Well, I've never played that one.
Okay.
But, yeah, it's kind of the same concept with all those games. They're just quick, fun, easy, short games you can play over and over.
Yep. Do we want to throw a bigger game in there? Maybe not so much of a quick game.
Sure. What do you think?
Well, I'm trying to think of one that we've both played here.
Oh boy.
What
games have I? I've played a lot of games, man.
I mean, I know which one I want to talk about.
Which one's that? Scythe?
I want to talk about Scythe.
Well, that's fine.
I love Scythe.
I've watched enough Scythe.
So, Scythe is a game set in an alternate post World War One.
Almost I don't want to say
they call it
steampunk.
They call it diesel punk.
Diesel punk, yeah. So it's almost a steampunky look.
But it's like big mechanical robots.
Yep.
But it's post World War One, and there's 7 factions you can play as with the expansion, 8 with the extra expansion, and then 5 in the normal game.
Right. Okay.
The game is actually fairly quick once you know what you're doing, and there's tons of ways to go about achieving victory.
Right.
So what you do is you're not actually allowed to pick what you're playing as.
Okay.
And as per the game rules, you turn all the play mats face down and you deal them out to players, and that's the faction that you're playing as.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's a really neat concept. And then each of the factions has a little bit different like abilities that they get. But like the core mechanics of the game are same for everybody.
Right.
So you don't have to learn like new mechanics to play a different faction, but you do have to learn kind of how they play and play to their strengths.
Okay.
So it forces you to do a different play style almost every time.
Nice.
Which to me is just good game design.
Yeah, no, it's good to be able to just learn different. Well, it's I think it helps too. If I'm playing the Russian faction or whatever you call it, I don't remember the name.
Rusviet.
The Rusviet. And so I play that, and next week I play another faction.
Yep.
Now I kind of know what I'm getting into with the Rusviet.
Yeah. If someone's a Rusviet,
so it's nice to learn. I like that. I don't like always being forced to play different things. Sometimes I do have my favorites, but I do like the random. I kind of like why it's kind of like in Magic when you do drafts.
Yeah.
You may want to play that color, but if you're not getting those colors.
Sometimes forcing that color is not the correct play.
Sometimes it's nice just to be thrown a loop and say, well, that's what you're doing this week.
Yeah.
A good one.
So Scythe is at its core a resource management game.
Okay.
So you spread your little meeples out, and then you choose which action you're gonna take, and then depending upon where your little meeples are, if you take the produce faction, you might produce wheat and oil.
Okay.
Or you could produce steel and wood, or you could produce 2 woods, or you could produce more meeples. And that's a pretty important thing to dial in.
Right.
Because knowing what resources you need to push the game forward and to kind of achieve your goal is really important. And the end game goal is to collect 6 stars. And you do this by completing missions or by putting all of your peoples from your playmat onto the board
Okay.
through production means, or
Right.
by producing all of your mechs by having enough metal to do so. And basically, there's just a bunch of ways to get stars.
Right.
And then there's also a scoring mechanic of popularity, where if you're attacking people all the time, usually you lose popularity, but you gain more territory and you can
Right.
expand your empire. And it'll actually, depending upon your popularity, you get placed in different scoring brackets.
Right.
So you might have less land and less resources, but you're 2 brackets higher than the other guy. You might score more points than him.
That's interesting.
It's a really neat concept. So like it doesn't always favor just being aggressive.
Right.
Um, yeah, and then in the middle of the board is a giant factory. It's the remnants of like the pre-war factory.
Right.
And first player there gets to pick what factory card they want, and nobody else can get that factory card.
Right.
And you add it to your playmat, and you can choose that option, and they're usually extremely powerful.
Right.
It's usually like pay 1 coin and get like 3 popularity or something
nice.
just wacky, you know.
Okay.
And yeah, so like there's strategic places on the board that you want to be, you want to control. It's a rush to the center. But you could also just turtle up the whole time.
Right.
And then every faction has a set map they have, the set like abilities. And then you get another map that you pass out, and these are, I believe, I think they're called the play mats.
Okay.
And basically there's like an industrial one, an agricultural one, an engineering one. And what it does is it has different benefits. Like in the engineering one, building mechs is cheaper, but producing stuff is more expensive.
Right.
So it's this like balance of trying to figure out what it is you need to do.
Right.
And then, there's bottom row actions that like get flipped around. And so like not all the playmats are the same. Everybody has a different things that they can do.
Okay.
Tied to other things that they can do.
Right.
So it's this interconnected web of just convoluted craziness, and it looks super daunting when you open up the box. But
right. Well, yeah, when you need a box full of that many minis and that many parts, you're like, oh.
Yeah, it looks very complicated, but it's honestly not. It's not bad. It took 3 of us probably 2.5 hours to play our first game.
Right.
Maybe 3 hours.
That was
learn.
Everybody, it was new, right?
And then once you know what you're doing, it's about a half hour per player.
Well, that's not bad.
Yeah, it's honestly pretty quick. Obviously indecisiveness and new players can come into as a factor in that.
Right.
But it shouldn't take too long. So it's a fun game. It can be fairly quick. Again, it's called Scythe. I think it's by Stone Meyer.
Yeah, same people that make
Charterstone.
Yeah.
Speaking of Charterstone,
well, I want one other thing about Scythe that I like. I've never played it personally. I've seen it though. I've seen you guys play it. Is the minis.
The minis are gorgeous.
Like, I'm so tempted to just one day open the box, take the minis out, and paint them.
Do it.
Like, because it's really cool minis, which you don't. So many companies don't. They just add generic meeples and generic tokens, or they use the cardboard tokens or the plastic pawns that have always been.
And a lot of it is stuff that I've bought through the upgrade pack.
Yeah, no, but that's really cool.
But the base minis, the 5 minis you get for the leaders in the game are absolutely stunning.
It's pretty cool. Like,
and then like I bought the metal coins and the metal resource tokens because they're just.
Yeah, I have a whole bag of wood ones sitting over there that you.
Yeah, I don't need them anymore. But you can use them for.
They could literally go into Charterstone.
Yeah, you can use them in other games. Yeah.
But yeah, so.
Do you want to talk about Charterstone, or should we talk about that another time?
We could talk about Charterstone. I don't know. You've never played it.
I don't know anything about Charterstone. I know it's a legacy game and it uses similar tokens.
It's definitely a legacy game. It is a multiplayer game. Best played was 6.
What's a legacy game?
A legacy game is a game that I don't know if there's a really great description for a legacy game, but I think Risk has different. Do you have a good? Okay, what's a good description?
To me, a legacy game is a game that if you play one session of it, the actions and consequences of that previous session carry into the next session.
Right.
That's a legacy game.
Right. Yeah, that is. Charterstone takes it one step farther.
Okay.
Okay, because you have a very basic rule book. I mean, it's probably you probably have 30 pages, but they're all blank.
Okay.
Except for maybe 3 or 4 rules.
Okay.
So your first game, everybody's like, well, "What do we do?" You follow the 3 rules. That's literally what you do. That nothing else.
Okay.
Because if you do anything else, you'll ruin the game for yourself. Not really, but it does cause problems down the road. So it's best just to follow 3 rules. Sometimes that was intended though, because down the road, this legacy style game, it's made for 12 sessions for 6 people. There is some auto play systems in place, so someone can't make it a week. The board plays itself for that person generically.
Okay.
But it builds on itself, and there's a lot of, if you've never played, I don't want to give away too much because there's a lot of surprises in Charterstone, but ultimately the 6 players are trying to make, I think it's called the Forever King.
Okay.
He's sending you off to this new world to basically expand his empire.
Okay, so you're like settlers.
Yeah, you're settlers of this new empire, and you each specialize in something. There's a farmer, there's a miner, there's a quarry guy for stone, there's the pumpkin harvester, there's the forest guy. So there's the wheat, pumpkins, yeah. So there's six factions, and you each develop your own little territory on the board while you're playing this game. But throughout the thing, the legacy kicks in because you're naming all this stuff yourself. You're naming every character.
Mm-hmm.
So like when you sit down, so if you want to play Charterstone in any serious capacity, you definitely don't want the goofy guy who wants to name everything dumb.
Yeah.
Because then you get a lot of dumb names that are going to be forever in that game.
Like Idiotville.
Yeah, which it undoubtedly happens in most gaming groups. You always get that one guy or girl that just can't take something seriously.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, is fine as long as everybody's okay with it. I personally, the first time we played it, I assured them not to be so silly about it, which now I think they're erasing our old board game with the new one. But that's okay. It's okay. I wanted it to be, because after 12 games, you play through 12 games, and the rules change constantly. Because you're adding new rules, new things happen depending on how you behave. At the end of every session, there's the Forever King makes you, depending on what you did, there's choices that be made. I like I said, I don't want to go into too much of the rules because if you ever play, I want most of that to be a surprise.
It's like an evolving.
It's definitely evolving rule set. Yeah, I know. And if I played through it 6 times, it would change different 6 times.
At its core, is it like a resource management game then, or like?
Yes, there's a lot of resource management. Yep.
Okay, is that like the main?
It's a cooperative. Competitive board game because
you need to work with other people to.
Yeah, if you work against each other, you're not going to get anywhere, and the Forever King is basically going to just yeet y'all fall out of his universe somehow.
Send you all back, yeah.
Yeah, and then there's an online aspect to it too. Oh. At some point, you log in online and see how your team is compared to the rest of the world.
Oh,
so which is kind of cool. It's not really a surprise anymore because the game's been out for a couple years now.
Yeah,
but you get to a certain point in the game, and they're like, "Hey, go to this website, enter your stats, and see how you compare to the rest of the world." And you're like, oh my gosh, wow. We were doing okay. We were a little above average.
Yeah.
In some aspects. Some aspects we were doing pretty terrible, but it's just really interesting. The game should take about 60 minutes around, as long as you don't have the
thinker.
Well, yeah, if you have the rules lawyers and the thinkers, they can't. I would not play with a rules lawyer. Because they will argue every aspect of everything. Because there's no rules. Like, they're very basic. Like, put a sticker down, play your round. Put a sticker down, play your round. Get your resources, pull your guys back.
How many rounds is each game supposed to be?
I'm trying to I don't know if there's a set number of rounds. I'm not sure there's a set number of rounds.
Okay.
Because I'm trying to think here. It's based off the number of people playing.
Okay.
I can't think of that number right off the top of my head.
But it's like
with 6 people, there would be X number of rounds to play because you TikTok, jeez. You move, there's this game piece that every time new round starts, you move down 1. Now there's things that can move it back up and move it down even farther. So you can end the game quicker if you really want to. If you're that guy, you want the game to end quicker, you can hurry that game by just doing whatever it requires you to do. And vice versa. If you want to drag the game out, you could drag it. It's not forever drag. You could drag it out forever, but yeah, it's made for pretty much anybody who has the attention span of something longer than a ferret.
Okay.
you'd want to have people dedicated to 12 sessions. People who are more or less serious about playing board games. It's not a casual. I don't think it's a casual game at all.
Okay.
There's nothing casual about Charterstone.
You're committed. You're committing hard.
Yeah, I think the only casual part would be is after you've done playing the whole 12 rounds, the game's over. You have a board set up for single playing sessions. So once we're done with our 12 rounds, you and I can sit down and play a game of Charterstone and not have to modify nothing. It's already set up for us.
Okay.
We could literally just play whatever.
That's kind of a neat concept.
Yeah, it is. So you basically making a board game to play a different type of board game later.
Yeah.
So you have a set of rules at the end of it, but to get up to that set of rules.
So it's like the campaign.
Yeah, exactly.
And then eventually, after you beat the campaign, then you go play the skirmish match.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly yes. It was really fun. We had a different group of players. Like none of us play really similar when I played, and we had a very competitive player. We had the hey, I'm here to hang out player. We had the guy distracted on his phone player. We had the somewhat serious guy, but really didn't like the game, so he played just because there was people there. And then we had the other player was probably closer to me, and I took it somewhat seriously, but because nobody at the table was really taking it seriously, except for the really hardcore player, he didn't take it too serious. But it ended up being, by the time we got done with 12 sessions, I think everybody was fairly invested in it. It just took a while because...
To get rolling.
Yeah, and I found that might be the biggest downfall of the game, is the first few sessions, you don't really have any guidelines.
Direction.
No, there's no direction. Everybody's kind of just like, what do we do?
Yeah.
So,
interesting.
It is a fun game. I think Stonemaier Games makes good games. And that's just from my experience with Charterstone, and I know that you like Scythe. I know that
phenomenal.
My kids have played Scythe, at least one of them has, and I know she liked it and thought it was a real fun game.
Yeah, they played it when I wasn't even here, so
yeah, no, oh yeah,
that was
they're digging into stuff.
I didn't have to push anybody off a cliff to get them to play it.
No, you sat down one time, we just had a session about how we affect our gaming communities. And that is Javen's way of affecting a gaming community. He'll walk in, you could have 4 people sitting at a table not doing anything related to anything at all. We're playing a game. No, we're not. Javen opens a board game, all of a sudden you got 5 people at the table playing. Like, how do you, I've seen it happen time and time again with some of the most belligerent people I've had in my store. He comes in, you're gamer, you come out, you're playing. No, I'm not. Okay. Sets up the game, he rolls dice, he takes his turn. Fine, I'll play. It's like, it's one of your unique abilities. I tell you what,
it's one of those things of like, you say no, and the next thing you know, you're in a diner having lunch with somebody, and you're like, I don't know how I got here.
What happened? Yeah, no, I've always appreciated that about you for sure. And I don't know if I talked about that in the other episode that we did for the new year or whatever. But that is something I've always appreciated about you. Is I always know that if you show up, even when you were living in Grand Four or wherever, and you showed up, I knew that somebody was playing games, and it was probably going to be all night.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not so much all night anymore because we've tried to get away from that whole
up till 3
a.m. because it's
getting old, man.
Let's be honest. Well, let's be honest. It's not necessarily good for everybody to do that anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
I found, especially lately, this is just a kind of a tip on the end of the stuff. If you have gaming sessions, whether it's board game nights or D&D sessions or any other session, and you schedule for 4 hours, and you're done at 4 hours, which I know you're really good at doing, you have your set, and then they're done. Like, we're going home. It makes you want to come back for that next session. Yeah,
because you can leave cliffhangers.
Because you can leave cliffhangers. You're right. But you're not wearing anybody out either.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not playing 8 hours. I'm like, oh.
They know, all my players know, they'll show up at this time, and they can reliably go home at this time.
Right.
And that's a huge benefit.
That helps with board games, too. And that kind of brings me around to that whole tips and tricks for the board game. That's a last-minute tip I threw in there for you guys.
And it was...
Schedule schedule timelines. Yep. You'll appreciate it, I promise.
Anyways, I'm Javen.
I'm Guff.
Thanks for listening this week. We'll catch you next time.
Yep.